Welcome into the week of the 2024 NFL Draft. So like the video if you are excited for all the Dolphins draft picks and the coverage, of course, we'll have for you guys. Of note, I will not be handling the draft coverage for you guys for the Miami Dolphins. The new full-time host will be here instead, so stay tuned for that one. Let's begin with the updates on the defensive tackle spot. A lot of interest being shown by the Miami Dolphins, which really should surprise nobody. It's an area of concern, and there are three notable players mentioned by Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald. It's the top two for almost everybody: Byron Murphy out of Texas, Johnny Newton out of Illinois, and then also Maason Smith has drawn interest from Miami. More on that defensive lineman here in a moment. Let's begin with Byron Murphy, who I think in terms of the quote-unquote consensus, if there is such a thing, which there obviously is viewed as the top defensive tackle in this year's class. I would have no complaints if he were the pick by the Miami Dolphins in round one. I have finalized my board. I will not be tweaking and adjusting like I normally do and making five players move up and down, whatever. First round grade, 16th overall on my board. So if he's there at 20, it's a great pick for the Miami Dolphins. So you're adding a high-end impact piece and really help you out. Sorry, 21, my bad. Not 20, obviously. High-end impact piece replaced Christian Wilkins. The production was fantastic this past year. Production was also good for Johnny Newton out of Illinois. It was even better, by the way, in 2022. He is graded higher for me than Byron Murphy is. I have him at 15 overall, so it's the old quote-unquote tags or touching line right there. Not much of a difference between those two players. I think both guys, I know I'm higher than most on Newton, at least higher than the NFL seems to be on Johnny Newton. That seems to be a very popular NFL draft Twitter take or social media take, that we all like Newton a bit more than most do. I think we'll be there in round one, but I don't know if he'd end up being the pick. So will the Dolphins draft a defensive tackle in round one, or could they look to wait instead? It is today's pinned comment, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there, type in Y for yes, N for no. Now, I would argue, just because we've spent so much time on others and on Murphy and Newton, the more intriguing name on this list is Maason Smith, the LSU defensive tackle. Now, I am probably not as high on Smith as he's just outside my top 100. I have a fourth-round grade on him, but I would anticipate him going earlier because of the physical gifts. He's 6'5" and change, 306 pounds, 35-inch arms. He didn't miss a single tackle this year, but despite those physical gifts, and despite being a former five-star recruit, the production has never been there. And someone was like, oh, well, he was coming off the ACL tear in 2022, wasn't the same, go watch him in 2021. And I did watch him in 2021. So a lot of good things there. It's why he was viewed as a potential first-round pick coming out this year. But we're now arguing that 2 years ago was his best film. That's not as appealing to me. He is young. There are traits and upside there, and I bet he goes at some point on day two as a boom-bust prospect. Defensive line is an obvious area of concern for this organization. I thought throwing bodies and vet minimum limited guaranteed contract money at the defensive line made a lot of sense. Once they lost Christian Wilkins and Raekwon, which I wasn't as bothered by. You got one in Zach Sealer. Still want two or three more good ones, or at least playable ones, and you'll probably get a couple or at least good snaps from guys like Taylor Tart, Neville Gallimore, Benito Jones, Deshaun Hand, Isaiah Mack, Jonathan Harris, maybe Brandon Peely, Davion Nixon. Those are options for you. I think you want one more guy you can count on to play. Maybe that is Maason Smith. I wouldn't like that pick in the second round, but if Miami's wheeling and dealing, trading down, more on that in a minute, by the way, maybe Smith makes even more sense for the Dolphins. Now, today's show is made possible by Game Time. It is the place to find last-minute tickets to your next big event. That could be sports. Maybe you want to go watch a Heat basketball game. Not sure we're feeling too good about that one at the current moment, especially with playoff Jimmy out, unfortunately. But you can go check out a Marlins game super cheap. Those games are wildly inexpensive, and at least a better time. Because you at least enjoy some baseball and have lower expectations there. or college football, Miami Hurricanes or Miami Dolphins. Those tickets will be available in the not-too-distant future. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. And you can buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. And you know you'll always get the best deal thanks to the Game Time guarantee. You find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Given how cheap some Marlins tickets are, that's going to pay for most of it. Terms do apply, but again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS. That's CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today for last-minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed. Let's talk trades here. The Miami Sun Sentinel had the Dolphins moving down in their final NFL mock draft for a pretty darn good return. Now, this would be a volume extra edition pick move, and I like it. The Dolphins get a first and a second-round pick from the 49ers. That is a slight overpay, relatively speaking, move down 10 spots, but it is still a really good return for Miami. And I think if you're going to move down 10 spots in round 1, you need to get a good return. Knowing, the Niners are going to come up to get somebody, probably an offensive lineman, most likely. But extra draft capital, you could trade down again in round 2 to get some day 3 picks. Well, you add that second rounder, you can take care of your offensive line, defense line, and maybe get a receiver as well. And if you don't have a big difference between pick 21 and pick 31 player, it's worthwhile there. Of note in this scenario, Byron Murphy was off the board. So you don't trade away from him from that perspective. What was maybe most noteworthy is who the Dolphins picked at 31 in this mock draft. Arizona offensive lineman Jordan Morgan. I like Morgan's game. I thought he was a very reliable player for Arizona. The issues that he's going to run into are physical more so than other stuff. I think I would try him at tackle first. But other NFL teams, I think, might put him at guard because of arm length concerns. That could drive down the value. I think he'll be there, that late round 1, early round 2 pick. He is inside my top 40, so not much of a reach. He's 39th overall. I'm picking at 31. That's splitting hairs between the guy at 31 versus 39. It's much different if it's like the guy at 2 versus the guy at 9. There's a bigger difference there from that perspective. So this pick is pretty clearly, in theory, your Teron Armstead replacement down the line. Because Jordan Morgan played on the left side at Arizona, and I don't like trying to take my left tackle and put him at right guard. Like that is a different position with all of the footwork and technique flipped. I think that's asking for too much change out of a young player. Now, who do you want the Dolphins to draft? Is it Jordan Morgan? Is it Byron Murphy? Is there a different name you have in mind? Sound off for me in the comments section right now. They did pass on Johnny Newton in this mock draft, but again, that's the guy that I'm higher on, and maybe the Dolphins don't feel the same way. I'm going to replace Teron Armstead next year pick. I do think you could try Morgan at left guard in year 1 if you want to get more out of your player in the first year of their contract, which, if you can make that happen, is probably a good idea. But it's not always how things end up going. Now, our goal is 56,000 subscribers, ideally before the NFL draft, but we're getting a little bit tight on time for that one. I think we'll definitely get there afterwards. Hit that sub button for more free Dolphins YouTube videos, including the final mock draft on Wednesday from us here at Chat Sports, with the new host handling that one. So stay tuned on that front. The final player we'll discuss here is one of my personal favorites this year, and I'm higher on him than most people. That's Amarius Mims out of Georgia. He was the pick by Jordan Reid in Reid's 7-round ESPN mock draft. Here's what he wrote. Teron Armstead will return for the 2024 season, but Miami could start planning ahead at offensive tackle, especially because it lost key players off the O-line in free agency. Mims arguably has the most upside of any offensive tackle in this class. The problem is he only has 8 starts to his name, so the sample is small. Even so, Mims' movement skills, lower body quickness, and power are all off the charts. Ability isn't the question, it's durability. If Mims is able to stay healthy, he's more than capable of playing on the left side in the NFL and giving the Dolphins a successor to Armstead. So give me your one-word reaction to the idea of drafting Amarius Mims. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent, something else altogether? Sound off in the comments. He only played about 300 snaps this year. Didn't get beat very much. Again, Mims is not wrong. He's just inexperienced. And I do think there is a difference between those two things. He's 14th overall on my board. I don't think the NFL is going to be as high on him, and you have to flip him to the left side, which he hasn't really done before, but he has the athletic ability to go do it. I have no doubts about that. It's just you acknowledge the risk going in. Just to make note of some other players who were on the board in this ESPN mock from Miami, Graham Barton, Johnny Newton, Chop Robinson. The edges were kind of picked over pretty early, by the way. A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy were also there.